As you know, this week's been a little nutty. It was supposed to be a quiet week for me in advance of my state of the city, but we've had one event after another event after another event, or I should say, speaking expectations, not events, since last week and all through today. And with that, I want to just go into an announcement I have, but provide it some context. And with the steps we're going to take this week. And I want to start by saying that Boiseans from the beginning have been partners in confronting this pandemic and its challenges head on. Together, we took tough steps to protect friends and neighbors, to do all we could to keep one another healthy, to keep our businesses and our community running. We were so grateful when the protection of vaccines arrived, with so many of us eagerly waiting for the day we could get ours. After listening to experts, listening to the advice of doctors, doing everything we needed to do for months and months and months, we were so ready to get beyond COVID. Right now here in Boise, we're vaccinated about 65%. It's more than any other place in our region, but we need it to be higher. We have to keep encouraging those who are reluctant to have conversations with trusted friends and family or medical professionals, because we need that to be higher. And in order to protect our health systems and the community against the variant, we must keep doing our part. Here at the City of Boise, we took steps early back in July. After asking the state for data on zip code vaccine rates, talking with medical professionals, we took the early step of requiring masks in city facilities for employees and visitors, and it's worked. We haven't had COVID outbreaks in our workplaces. Our employees haven't spread it to people in our workplaces. We've been able to keep everyone healthy, avoid interruption of services, and importantly, make sure that people remain safe on city properties. And when we think about keeping people in our community safe, no group has weighed heavier on my mind than our kids, especially those too young to be vaccinated. They don't have a choice yet. And as I told leaders back in August, I am so proud of the Boise School District for doing the right and really hard thing proactively. They required masks to protect our kids and educators from day one, ensuring that they had the best shot at getting vital in-person learning while other districts didn't. But here in Boise, where regional hospital facilities are located, we're seeing both the benefits of the steps that we took and the consequences of the region's low vaccine rates. Those that can be vaccinated need to be, to protect those like our kids that can't be. And I have been in near daily contact with our hospital leaders. And one consequence of the inaction is painfully clear. Our hospitals are full of unvaccinated people. Our hospitals are at capacity, straining under the crushing weight of seriously ill COVID patients, limiting access for all other cases. Our hospitals are full and our medical professionals are maxed out physically and emotionally. I know that those of us who are vaccinated, who have worn masks, who have made sacrifices to protect ourselves and our community are incredibly frustrated and disheartened. I'm right there with you. I want to repeat that many Boiseans stepped up and have, for the most part, done what's needed. But right now, we need more. We need more from our state leadership, where standards and policy can have the biggest impact for the most Idahoans. We need more from our regional neighbors, particularly in those communities where vaccination rates are too low and where the unvaccinated are getting sick in record numbers and flooding our region's hospitals. Here in Boise, this is what we're doing. From the beginning, we've taken our cue from the CDC. Right now, the CDC says that when in indoor public spaces and area with high transmission, wear a mask. They say that when you're outside, you can go without only if you maintain a safe distance. That's why we've required masks inside city buildings since July. And what we know about this virus and its variants has evolved. So have our precautions around events evolved. Events that require vaccinations or a negative COVID test for entry, that look at curtailing their numbers, that require masks inside can be carried out safely, allowing us to continue to gather like we all want to. And I applaud those organizers who have worked closely with the city to ensure public safety comes first. But as our situation evolves, so must our approach so that events can continue. So today I'm announcing policy changes for City of Boise permitted events and events that are held at city-owned facilities effective Friday. Moving forward for events under 250, masks are required indoors and outdoors if you can't maintain 6 feet distance. Event organizers must provide masks for attendees. COVID-19 protocol ambassadors are required on site. Event organizers must submit a plan for the city's special events process for approval. Moving forward for events larger than 250 people, proof of vaccine or proof of a negative COVID-19 test is required for everyone attending. Masks are required both indoors and outdoors if 6 feet of physical distance can't be maintained when you're except for when you're eating and drinking. Event organizers must provide masks for attendees. COVID-19 protocol ambassadors are required. Event organizers must submit a plan to the city's special events team. Physical distancing measures must be in place, and there will be sanitation stations throughout the event footprint. This policy change applies, as I said, to events the City of Boise permits, as well as any events held at city facilities. And again, we're taking these steps so that events in our community can continue safely. Boiseans care about each other. It's who we are, and we need to step up now once again for each other. That's what the City of Boise is doing, and I'm here, and I'm here asking you to do the following things. First off, encourage your friends and loved ones to talk through their fears, concerns, and questions, and help them get a vaccination. You can share resources with them from trusted sources like the CDC or locally through Central District Health. The single most effective way to end this pandemic and the variants is the vaccine. Please mask up in public spaces. We've asked businesses to lead alongside us, and there are establishments within our city doing just that. When Boiseans see a sign asking them to mask up before walking in, they do. Support businesses and events that are taking sensible precautions. When events at venues like Boise State require masks, follow the rules. We also know that what we've seen in the hospitals can't be changed or turned around by our city alone. We're going to address events and safety requirements, continue to be in contact daily with our health systems, and monitor the data as it unfolds. And if we have to, we'll take additional steps, just like we have since March of 2020. I know we're all tired. I know this has been a long year and a half, and at turns trying, confusing, and often heartbreaking. I have every faith that we will get through this, Boise, but not without continued commitment to our neighbors and to one another. It's time once again to do the Boise thing, step up and do the right thing, even if it isn't the easy thing. I am so proud to be your mayor, and you have my solemn pledge that I'll continue to seek the right things, not the easy things, right alongside you. Wear a mask indoors, get the vaccine if you can, and encourage others to get vaccine too. Let's take care of each other, Boise. Be well.
Thank you, Mayor. And I know we have a lot of members of the media joining us, so feel free to reach out in the chat, or if you want to jump in right now and ask a follow-up question about the special events announcement today, please do. Kyle, I see you.
Hi, thank you, Bonnie. Hello, Mayor. Thank you for having us today. I was curious if this order applies to Boise State football. I know we're expecting, I think, 36,000 people in attendance for Saturday's game. Just curious how that applies here.
This order applies to events permitted by the City of Boise and those in City of Boise facilities.
And that doesn't include football, correct?
Football is not permitted by the City of Boise.
Okay.
Joe Paris, you're up next.
Joe Paris at KTVB. Mayor, thanks for your time. I'm curious, at this point, why has the decision been made to not go further? As we've seen earlier in the pandemic, you have the authority to take more, aggressive action. Is there a reason that you didn't want to extend a masking policy to things like local businesses, churches, and schools?
Sure, that's a great question, Joe. And it allows us the chance to remind ourselves that we've learned so much in the last year and a half. So in the early days, nobody, public health professionals, weren't sure how laser of a focus you could take to prevent the spread of COVID. So we did what we could do with the best information at the time. Over the course of the last 18 months, we've learned so much about what's necessary and needed. Here in the City of Boise, our vaccination rates are 65%. Across the region, that is not at all similar. And so when looking at policies and impact that we can have to protect those within our community and also to help the hospitals out, this seems to be And we believe it is the best next step that we can take at the local level. And this is in consultation with healthcare professionals. And I mentioned in my remarks that what is needed is a regional approach, a state approach, because this virus crosses zip codes. The regional hospitals are in our city. The Capital Sun has done great mapping of vaccination rates and the cases that align with those vaccination rates. And so something that we can do right now that attracts people into the city from various zip codes throughout the region is to look for SIT events. All that being said, we will continue to monitor the situation daily. I'm in daily contact with leaders at the health systems, and we'll make additional decisions if we must.
I believe Kyle has another question.
Sure.
Thank you. I'm just curious to know sort of what the enforcement process is for in case, events, say they'll abide by these rules, but then when the event day comes, it seems that enforcement isn't happening. What sort of punishment can these sort of events expect as a result?
Yeah, great question. And it's going to be really important that people follow the rules. And we're asking events organizers and we're requiring them to have ambassadors to help make sure those rules are followed. Because the most logical consequence, if at these events this doesn't happen, is to not allow events in the future. So like my mom always said to me, don't mess it up for your sister, or actually my sister would say to me, don't mess it up for me. We're relying on the public to follow the rules, the events to be done correctly, because that's what we permit. And if we don't see compliance to the extent that we need to see, then we're going to have to look again at whether events can occur.
And if just one follow-up, I guess, if this happens and cases continue to worsen, hospital beds continue to get more full, I guess, what are some further steps the city could take in the future?
It's been so interesting during this crisis, the COVID crisis, the last 18 months, because it seems to be that there's one constant, and that everybody always wants to know what's next. And then the one constant reality is that the virus is in charge and we don't know what's next. So I will look to the healthcare professionals, their reactions to the impact that events in the future taking place have on the reality on the ground, and then we'll weigh again the best policy tools, the best policy steps that we can take to be helpful. We don't want to do things that are performative. We want to do things that are impactful. And so we're starting with events, and then we'll have to weigh the data on the ground, the reality on the ground, and what's happening in the hospitals, working in partnership with those health professionals that know best to determine what's next.
And I'm going to call on George Prentice next, and then Joe will wrap with you.
Hi, Mayor McLean. I'm curious if you considered the city's previous face covering requirement for all businesses to be successful. And if indeed it was successful, why you haven't taken that step now?
Sure. And that goes back, George, thanks to the question, to the level of vaccination rates that we have in the community. We want to see more, but where they're at right now, the recognition of the fact that this is, those in the hospital are unvaccinated and the case counts correspond with vaccination rates. The single most effective tool that we have right now is to look at gatherings where people are coming from all over the place together and take steps to prevent the spread in those situations where you have more unvaccinated that aren't tested or moving forward will be tested. So we're sure that there are not COVID positive cases within these events.
I have one quick follow-up.
Yeah.
Was there any consideration or conversation prior to Art in the Park to make this announcement?
That's a good question. We started talking about the needed changes over the weekend. Had a conversation with Art in the Park on Friday about requiring masks, given what had happened since they were permitted, and calls we'd gotten from the community. They took steps to post that on their website, but we knew moving forward that we wanted to have a framework for events to ensure that masks are required indoors and in particular situations, and then with larger events. that there's a protocol in place to ensure that COVID positive folks aren't in the crowd.
Joe, you can go for your last question.
Thanks, Bonnie. Mayor, I've had conversations with other Idaho leaders in recent weeks, and kind of an answer that I've got from them on the elephant in the room, mask mandates, is that they feel at this point in the pandemic, mask mandates just aren't effective. It's become overly politicized, and they feel encouraging people to take the actions they think is appropriate is the best way. I guess, was there a consideration for a mask mandate, or is there a fear that it's just too political at this point and a mask mandate wouldn't effectively accomplish what you're looking to do?
I appreciate that. And we've talked with doctors about it, the healthcare systems about it. We've looked at what would be the most impactful at this point if we want to ensure that we're reducing future cases of COVID while hospital counts remain high, and really believe that the most effective tool that we can take at this moment is on events. When you are, I'll harken back to the vaccine rates in the community. Many businesses and others have stepped up and required them in their own facilities. We know that this is unvaccinated people in the hospitals. And in the early days, we looked to masks and said, well, you know, we'll need masks until a certain number of people are vaccinated. And that's at this moment in time, we believe that given the continued increase in vaccination rates in Boise, which is much higher than the rest of the region, the cases and the location of cases and how closely tied they are to vaccination rates. And in Boise, the gathering of people from all those different locations in our city needs to be addressed by us looking at how we keep folks at events safe.
And it looks like we have one more question from Kyle, and then we'll wrap up.
Thanks, Mayor. I'm just curious if you know which events will be subject to this new rule first.
Bonnie, do you have that, or could you share that with Kyle later?
Yeah, and that's actually part of my wrap up. So I'll give you guys that spiel and then we'll close. But obviously there's some big events coming up, including Treefort. They just made an announcement this afternoon, but the special events team at the city of Boise will be working closely with everyone who has an upcoming event that will be impacted by this, making sure they know the new framework, and then making sure that they are able to make the accommodations based on these new requirements. So they'll be doing that starting today. And then moving forward, just making adjustments based on this new requirement. So that work is going to be starting. We'll be posting this on our website, and I'll be following up with you all with a news release that has all this information in it too. So definitely some work to be done, and the special events team is ready for that. And this really is a step to make sure that events can continue safely in our community. And as the mayor said, we're grateful for those event organizers who've worked really closely with us to make sure that they're hosting safe events. And we're hopeful this framework will just provide an even greater foundation for that to continue happening. And with that, I think we'll wrap it up. I know there's some other things happening this afternoon. Thank you, Mayor McLean, for your time. And thank you everyone for joining the call. If you have follow-up questions, please let me know.